Emergency services have worked through the night in Washington, D.C. to recover bodies from the wreckage, but the search for answers has only just begun.
Joining us live from Washington, D.C. is CNN reporter Michael Yoshida. Can you tell us what the latest is that you're hearing?
Hey, good to be with you, Matt and Nat. When first talking about this now recovery operation, you can see some of it happening right behind me on this monitor. Some of those boats still in the water. At this point, we know at least 28 bodies have been pulled from the water, 27 of those from that American Airlines jet, one from that U.S. Army helicopter. But as you just were saying, we had 67 who are now believed to be dead following this mid-air collision. And to give you a sense of just how dynamic of a debris field this is, like, we spent most of the overnight hours in the morning on the banks of the Potomac River, which you see behind me, and we actually were pushed back along with many of the other members of the media because investigators were expanding that field. Some of that debris was starting, as the morning went on, to move through the water. So just an expansive area, very tough conditions for these crews, frigid temperatures in the water. There's ice still in the water as well. Thankfully, we have seen support from the community, people coming down to support these hundreds and hundreds of first responders that are trying to get some sense of closure for all of the families that were impacted by this mid-air collision. We do know at this point, we're starting to learn about some of those who were on board this aircraft. Skating club from Boston, Massachusetts, confirming that several members of their community who were at the U.S. World Figure Skating Championships last week were on board and are believed to have died. That includes a couple that won the 1994 World Skating Figure Championships. They had moved into coaching. Their son had just taken fourth at those U.S. Men's Figure Skating Championships last weekend. So some of those stories now becoming clear about just how tragic of an incident this was here in our nation's capital.
Yeah, Michael, my heart sinks when you talk about those young lives that have been lost, and we're going to find out more, of course, of that those 60 passengers, 4 crew, and of course the 3 pilots that were on board the Black Hawk helicopter as well. Just take us through Reagan National Airport, because we're hearing extremely busy airport, a lot of air traffic coming in and out.
For sure. As you can imagine, this is one of the busiest airspaces in the United States. Reagan National Airport, right a short distance away from D.C., our nation's capital. Obviously, you have members of Congress, the government going in and out all hours of the day, combined with all the military aircraft as well. Very common, as someone who lives here and flies out of this airport quite often, to see those helicopters going along the water in their flight paths. We heard from officials earlier today here in D.C. that both this U.S. Army helicopter as well as this American Airlines jet were in what they would describe as standard flight paths. So the question then is, well, how did this happen? We know that investigators are trying to get those black boxes. We've heard communications from air traffic controllers to some of those pilots, but again, a lot of questions that still need to be answered following this tragedy.
Yeah, very long investigation ahead. We might play you some of those radio announcements that we've got coming up in Sunrise this morning. Michael, we thank you for that report live from DC.